And good morning. We're live on YouTube on the Falcons Podcast. Let's bring in Facebook group, Atlanta Falcons on SI. And let's bring in our X group. That's at Scout Kennedy. And let's see, how do we want to orient these? I think we're ready to go. We'll hit that. A little slower, with a mini bye week. So I thought we'd do a little bit of reflection. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. My name is Scott Kennedy. I will be your host today. If you are watching on YouTube, there are two streams going. One is a vertical stream that is mobile friendly. If you look up and you see it looks a little different than usual, that might be why. And there's also the standard landscape screen that comes in as well. So if you don't like one or the other, you do have the choice to go one or the other on YouTube. We're going to try that out for a couple days, see how it works, see if it reaches more people on mobile. We'll give it a shot, but both choices are there for you. Today, what we want to talk about, since it was a little bit slow, a little bit mini bye week, one of the things I wanted to talk about, I was like, let's hit on the surprising and most disappointing Atlanta Falcons. Typically, I'll use surprising in both directions as far as a good surprise or a bad surprise. In this case, since we are doing disappointing, it will be good surprises. It will be who surprised us in a good way on that side of the ball, and disappointing pretty much speaks for itself. And we are including coaches. We are including coaches on this list. So that's why I didn't put Atlanta Falcons players. I put coaches in there. So I hope everybody had a great weekend, enjoyed some time off, are a little pissed off that 7-7 would put you in first place in the NFC South. I know that's really annoying. And, I know it said the Falcons were mathematically eliminated. And I looked at it. I was like, wait a minute. Wouldn't 8-9 be better than 7-8-2? That would seem to be better to me, but evidently not. Evidently, that's a tie. I guess the ties, literally a tie. The ties, if the Buccaneers and Panthers tied twice, they could conceivably finish that. They could both finish 7-8-2. And I was like, well, wouldn't 8-9 be ahead of that? Not in American sports. In points-based sports, where you get 3 points for a win and 1 point for a tie, yes, that would be ahead. But by a winning percentage, that is considered a tie. And we all know that the Atlanta Falcons don't own any tiebreakers in the NFC South. So that's why they were eliminated. We're talking about some cold weather. And yes, it's cold. It's cold. It was 17 this morning? That's damn near cold enough to cancel school around here. The buses won't start. That happened to me. I don't know how many of y'all were in Atlanta in the 80s. I think it was 1983. There was a sleet storm that hit, and I mean, it cracked pine trees. It shut the city down. There's an inch of sleet across everything. We missed an entire week of school. But the first day of that, the school was closed because they couldn't get the buses started. It was so cold. We get up in the morning, and you get the alert across the teleticker on the morning news that it was Cobb for us, so Cobb County schools. But everything in the metro Atlanta area, the schools were all closed because they couldn't get the buses to start. It's cold. It's cold out there. I don't care where you are. 15 is cold. That's chilly. And someone will say, "Oh, it was minus 30 in Montana today." Well, that's colder. 15 is cold. I don't care where you are. Minus 30 is colder. That definitely is colder. So we go live on these because we like to say hello to people. So we like having the conversation with y'all. So I want to say hello to Floyd. Floyd's in on the mobile version right now. I'm glad you can make it live. I know Floyd always checks in after the fact, and I appreciate it. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Nick will be back on Wednesday. It's just us this morning, y'all. So good morning to you, Floyd. And John says it's cold in Michigan. Brother, it's cold everywhere. I was in Daytona. I did the NASCAR it was a baseball trip, but how I explained it to people, I did the NASCAR trip this weekend. I was in Daytona on Saturday, and then Anniston, which is Talladega, on Sunday, and it was supposed to be 15. I'm like, well, I'm glad they had that baseball camp on Sunday because it was pretty chilly. So Trenton comes in. He's already weighing in on the topic. He says, disappointing Mooney, Darnell Mooney, Casey Washington, Ray McLeod, Mike Hughes, and Eli Wilkinson. I actually almost put Eli Wilkinson in the pleasant surprises category, Trenton, because this is relative to expectations. What were your expectations for a backup guard playing third-team offensive tackle? I think he's done a decent job. If you could clean up the false starts, you might not even know he was there, that's not a bad thing for for that. I think Wilkinson has been a pleasant surprise, all things considered. He's nervous out there. He's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but remember, he's a backup offensive guard. First team's Caleb McGarry, second team was Storm McLeod, third team is Eli Wilkinson. They've been going out there with a third team offensive tackle the whole time. I think he's been doing good. And he says Kobe Bryant, David Sills, Kirk Diablo, and Dorless. We might have some crossover on that. He says it's cold in Florida. Mr. E is me. Good morning, Scott and Falcons fans. That's all of y'all. Tumblr, let's see what you were saying. The Falcons are the Falcons. Need to clean house from the owner all the way down to the bottom. Well, I can promise you which one of those isn't going to happen. Arthur Blank's not going anywhere. It's just the way the sports are set up here in the United States. It's a billionaire boys club monopoly. It's a protected monopoly. And there really aren't any ramifications for being a bad owner. So you're going to have to live with it. Good morning, T-Dub. He's over on the mobile side of things as well. Like I said, if you're just coming in, I've got 2 streams going on YouTube. One is mobile. You will see me. There's only about this much room on the side of my head. It's a vertical stream, and I know a lot of people listen when they're on the way to work, and this might be a better way for you to do it. You're not watching anyway. You're listening. But I also have the standard landscape view as well. So if you want one or the other, just click on my name to go back to the main channel, and you'll see both streams going at once, and you can change. Sam says it is disappointing. He says all we had to do was just be competent, and we win this division. 7-7. It's going to be another time where a losing record might win the division. That's awful. You should be disqualified. Having a winning, I guess with 17 games you can't have 8-8 anymore, but 8-1. If you're not, one of the qualifications for being in the playoffs should be you have to be above 500. I don't care if you win your division or not. It's terrible. And I've been anti-playoffs my whole life. You get these teams that they play, the seasons are so long. You play 4 and 5 months and you beat all these teams and you got to do it again. I was watching a reel on Instagram, like, wouldn't it be fun if Alabama and Georgia played a third time? I'm like, no, it's not. It's not fun. It just makes those other 2 games mean less. Anyway, I know I am well aware I'm in the minority on this, and everybody loves the playoffs. They love the playoffs, but man, I like watching compelling games for 5 months, not for 1 month in playoffs. And playoffs take away from the regular season. Kevin says, good morning. It's freezing in South Carolina. It's cold everywhere, man. Psalm, good to see you. And Trenton, I'm glad you like it. He says, I'm glad you have the alternate stream making your shows more accessible. Yeah, we'll try it out. Not everybody's going to like it, but you have choices. I'm not taking any away, just adding to it. So it should be better. And Psalm says, I remember when schools got canceled, the weather in the 90s. In California, we're never shut down in school. Yeah, the fires will get you, though, out there in California. And then what do y'all remember what the last really bad sleet storm, the Chipper Jones, Freddie Freeman one, where cars were sliding sideways off the rails? I had a lot of friends in California, so they're making fun of, an inch of snow and the Atlanta shuts down. Like, one, it's not an inch of snow, it's an inch of ice. And if you can't get rid of ice, we got our good old boys in our 4-wheel drives and mud tires sliding sideways off. We got people. There's videos of people ice skating in cul-de-sacs. You can't do anything with that. And besides, I've seen California and LA, what happens to y'all when it rains. When it rains, you lose your mind. So shut your mouth. I don't want to hear it. So, it'll get you everywhere. He says, maybe the Falcons need to keep Cousins, Penix, Stick, and add another for next season. Might as well bring back Matt Ryan, too. Yeah, hell. Phillip Rivers is out there. Isn't that crazy? Phillip Rivers he was a finalist for the Hall of Fame and goes out there and plays. To me, that's a statement of quarterback play in this game these days. I watched a video of mine off of a channel that I ended up losing. It was like on my scout.com address and I lost it. But it was from like 2013. I was talking about quarterbacks in that class. And this is how long I've been on this. I was talking about how Major League Baseball is really taking away from arms in this league. I'm like, the pro style quarterbacks are going away. Yeah, they're playing baseball. You don't tell me a 6'5" guy with a 90-mile-an-hour arm playing baseball can't play football. he's playing baseball. There's 30 teams in Major League Baseball. They're taking 15-man staffs. That's minimum of 400 jobs, 12, 13, 14-man staffs, 400 MLB jobs. You got longevity. You got plenty of money. Easy. It's an easier game on the body, and it's not 30 starters. So Major League Baseball has deteriorated quarterback play through the years. No doubt in my mind. And I know you're joking about bringing back Matt Ryan, but the Cousins thing, not on $57 million. That's a luxury the Falcons can't afford. Even if you think, hey, man, if only we'd played with Kirk Cousins all year, we'd be in the playoffs. Okay, I'm not going to argue that. That's could be a valid point. I can't prove you wrong. But I don't think next year they're necessarily turning into a playoff team right away because Kirk Cousins is a quarterback on a $57 million contract. So I think he's in trouble. And Boyd, he says, I think James Pierce Jr. is a better option than any top 10 pick this year. We'll see. I guarantee you, whoever takes an edge in the first round would be thrilled to get the production that James Pierce Jr. has had. I promise you that. Matt Sinus says he goes third overall. Might be a spoiler here. John Harrell says the play calling got worse with Zach Robinson. And let's see. Albert, good to see you. He says the disappointing part was how play calling didn't change from last year and week to week. Well, why would it? It's all the players' fault. If the players would just do things right, there wouldn't be any problem. There's not any problem with the play calling, right? That's what I kept hearing all season. I know. OMT Studios, good to see you. I'll see you. Good to see you again. Big accident on the freeway. Everybody stay safe out there, y'all. Let me see here. And John says, after the rumors about JPJ, and they weren't necessarily rumors. He just, it was just different perspectives. People have problems. Whose fault is it? It wasn't necessarily rumors that he clashed with other people at times. That's not a rumor. That happened. So, the Falcons said they did their homework on him, and they were pleased with what they saw. And frankly, I'm pretty pleased with what he is doing with the Atlanta Falcons right now. And Michael, good to see you, Island Mike. Hope you're staying warmer down there in the islands. Puerto Rico says, morning, Scott, and good morning right back at you. So let's get into it, y'all. We've said a lot of our hellos. And just a quick reminder, scrolling across the top and the bottom, depending on which one you're watching, be a member. We're knocking on the door of 50 members. We're growing. Want to thank you, Scott Booth. He is our latest members. And Matt Sinus says, plot twist, we created the rumors. Yeah. You got to be careful when those things start popping up. Sometimes there's some legitimacy to them. But also, if it's legitimate, you'll see guys just sink like a rock. They're like, oh, we failed as medicals. And they don't necessarily want that. I don't want to be sued for, let's say I'm the Houston Bobcats and I've got an NFL team and he fails a medical and that leaks from our group and he falls. Well, maybe his medical was okay with somebody else and they didn't fail him. I could have just cost that kid tens of millions of dollars. I was liable for that. Let's see. Derek says at 8-9, and I believe everyone stays for 2026. Think the Falcons are going to beat the Rams? I wouldn't put it past them. Lose the Cardinals, beat the Rams. That's a Falcon thing to do. And just real quick, tough day yesterday, with Micah Parsons going down. I will almost always, we'll talk about what somebody is worth, what it would cost to get them. And I will almost always say I am not in favor of that big blockbuster trade that costs multiple first-round picks, and then you have to sign them just because it is such a dangerous game, and you're one play away from losing a guy for a year. And it's like that in any sport, but it's really like that in football to put so many resources into one player, especially a non-quarterback. I think it's risky. I mean, it's obviously it's risky, but it's super risky in this. So feel bad for Micah Parsons and the Green Bay Packers because he is a special player and he's a lot of fun to watch. And then and Pat Mahomes, hopefully he'll get healthy and we'll see him beginning of next year. They were eliminated anyway, but hopefully we'll see him come back. I mean, I like watching Pat Mahomes play the game. I mean, those are special players. It's one of the reasons I love this game is because of players like that. And I'm sorry they're out. So let's start with let's go. We're gonna go disappointing first, and work our way down from 5 to 1. And let's see here. And let me answer this real quick. Trenton says, Scott, what's Kirk's deal for next year? Is he a free agent? Or are we cutting him and taking a hit? Those aren't mutually exclusive. It will start this way. The Falcons will cut him, and they can either designate him a post-June 1 or take all of the $35 million dead cap in 2026. They will cut him. He's got a $57 million cap hit scheduled. That includes salary and whatnot. If you were to keep him on the team for an entire year, all of 2026, he would count $57 million against your cap. You have paid him $100 million, but you've only paid him 65. You've only collected 65 of that across 2 seasons so far. But you have given him $100 million in cash. So you're minus $35 million on the deal. That's the dead cap. So when you cut him, all of the money that you have paid him does not get to go across the final 2 years of his contract. It accelerates to right now. You've paid him 100. You've only burned off 35 million in 2 years. I mean, 65 million in 2 years. So you will take a $35 million dead cap hit. That's how much the difference between what you've paid him and what he has earned over the course of his 4-year deal. That's what a dead cap is. When you can then decide, do I want to count that across 2 years or take it all in 1 year? So the Falcons will cut him and he will become a free agent is how that will end up working. So Marcus Cook, good to see you. Thanks for being a member. He says, what's up, Scott? Nothing like the South, wearing shorts on Sunday and bundled up on Monday. I was a little west of here. I was in Jacksonville, Alabama. It was freaking cold yesterday, so we knew it was coming. And yeah, you just have to check. It's wonder why we're all sick in the winter time, and then it'll rain. Then it'll be 40 and raining when it is. It is strange. What's the old saying down here? You don't like the weather? Wait a minute. Except in the summer, it's hot. So let's get to on disappointing players. I'm gonna count 5 down to 1, and I'm gonna get the elephant out of the room to begin with. The big one right away. And I put him at the top, not at the bottom. But disappointing players, we'd be lying if we said we weren't disappointed in how Michael Penix played this year. Michael Penix, to me, was a disappointing player for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, as I've said a zillion times, before you go pounding on your keyboard and angry responding to me, I do believe, and I use the phrase quarterback play a lot, because I believe that quarterback play is a collective. It's a collective of your weapons, of your quarterback, of your offensive line, and of the scheme and play calling and the situation you're put in. Are you getting the ball in the 15 or are you getting the ball in the 40 because your defense is giving you ball in good areas? But Michael Penix Jr., when he got hurt, was not playing that well. I'm disappointed in his play. Not necessarily the player, but I think we are disappointed in his play. We were hoping to see more of what we saw at the end of last season, which was a gunslinging, push the ball downfield, stretch the defenses and open up more room underneath for Bijan and Tyler Algier and Kyle Pitts. More room for your big skill guys. And it didn't happen. They were throwing the ball underneath. It took 3 games for them to push the ball beyond the sticks. So that's on Zach Robinson as much as anything. But yes, I think that Michael Penix Jr. pre-injury was a bit of a disappointment this year. And again, that's not all on Michael Penix. I get that. Number 4. I did sneak a defensive player in here just so it wasn't all on offense. And I think as far as defense goes, Rook Aroro has been a little bit of a disappointment. He's out there. He's played more snaps than anybody, but he has the least amount of tackles on the defensive side of the ball. He hasn't made the impact that some of his line mates have made when it comes to sacks and tackles for loss. He's been a liability against the run. I don't think he's had a good season. And again, this is also against expectations. So again, when I say disappointing or surprising, to me, that's against expectations. So had bigger expectations for Rook this year, and I don't think he's lived up to them this season. I think he's been a little bit of a disappointment. That's why he's only 4 on there, the only player on defense. And I consider putting Jesse Bates on here. I really did, because we have super high expectations. So an honorable mention on this list is Jesse Bates. We have super high expectations for Jesse Bates, and he's just been okay. But Rook, I put it number 4 on this list. Number 3, now there is a big drop. Now it's listed 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but there's a big drop between 5 and 4 and to number 3. There's a big drop. And how disappointed are you? I put Jamal Agnew as number 3, as the third most disappointing player. And the only reason he's not higher is because the expectations for him were limited and his money wasn't that much. He was like $1.2 million. He didn't cost a ton of money, but they're hyping him up to at least be, God, I cannot remember new names. The running back we took out of BYU as a special teams guy, and he was a corner when he came in, led the league in punt returns before he hurt his knee. Avery Williams. So I'll tell you the 1985 starting lineup for the Braves, but I can't tell you what I did yesterday. Jamal Agnew was made up to be a weapon, a huge weapon. Well, he was just not for the Atlanta Falcons. So he has been a huge disappointment, a waste of a roster space. Not even that, he's been a liability. One of the worst return men in the league, and is a big reason why the Atlanta Falcons return teams are last. I thought it was Avery Williams. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dave. And John asked a question before we move on to the next one. Is this the last season for Algier's contract? Yes, he is. Algier was on a 4-year rookie deal, and this is the end of his 4 years. He will be an unrestricted free agent in about a month. So he is technically, I think you still can negotiate with your own free agents up until the free agent period opens in March, but he's going to be a free agent. And I don't think he'll be back. So depending on what the Falcons do, he should be one of the premier free agent running backs, depending on what the Falcons do in free agency. If they lose more free agents than they sign, as far as a top tier versus, tier versus tier, meaning Tyler's going to be a top tier 1 or top tier 2 free agent. If they sign one of those guys, it will cancel him out. If they don't, they'll get a comp pick for him in 2027. And remember, y'all, it sounds like a long way away to you and me, but 2027 is 54 weeks away. It's not that far. Let's see. Good morning, James. Hope you were doing well. And Derek says the entire special teams, besides Zane, it was a disappointment. Yeah. I didn't have high expectations for him, though, but y'all have seen the meme. We had low expectations for you, but holy bleep. You couldn't even live up to that. Number 2, most disappointing Atlanta Falcon this year was Darnell Mooney. Oh, I know he got hurt in the preseason, but he never really came back from that. The broken collarbone was in July. We're now into December, and Darnell Mooney's just kind of out there. Where is he on receiving yards? He is still 4th on the team. He's a second leading receiver, but he's only got 364 yards, and he was knocking on the door of 1,000 last year. Hasn't really mattered which quarterback it's been. He's been a real disappointment, and we knew there would be somebody. If this team was going to take a step offensively, not everybody was going to go up. Drake was doing really well. Kyle Pitts has had a good season. Bijan's had a really good season. Darnell Mooney and Ray McCloud have been zeros compared to what they were last year. And number 1, most disappointing Atlanta Falcon OMT. He says Younghoe Koo. I considered putting him on the list, honestly. I really did. But that seemed kind of unfair that he only got 1 game. That seemed like kicking a really unfair, but it crossed my mind, OMT. But remember, coaches are involved here, and my expectations versus what we have seen out of Zach Robinson are very different. The Falcons had about the number 13 scoring offense last year. They had the number 6 in total yards last year, despite the quarterback carousel they had, despite the well-publicized problems they had with despite the well-publicized problems they had at quarterback with Kirk Cousins to a rookie. They were still 6th in total yards. I think he was stubborn. I think his play calling lacked any kind of imagination. I think his adjustments were poor. I don't think he used the strengths of the team very well. and I don't think he'll be an Atlanta Falcon in 2026. So most disappointing for me is the most disappointing for me for expectations versus what actually happened on the field this year is Zach Robinson. And Trenton says honorable mention is a disappointing medical staff. Yeah, and I don't know. They're not allowed to talk, but when Raheem Morris is their mouthpiece, you start asking the question. Storm Norton's day to day, and then has a setback and he misses the year. He's going to get a designation, so he might miss 4 to 6 weeks, and then he misses the whole season. Braylon Trice, if he tore his knee again, they didn't say anything about it. He's out there. We're trying to get him ready and get him through camp. He's out. He's out for the whole season. I don't know what's going on with Troy Anderson. I really don't. I know you can't count on him, but for him to never even suit up, he hadn't put on pads this year, as far as I know. As far as I remember, I don't think he's even put on a helmet. Do we even see him? I don't really look for him. Do we even see him on the sidelines? Is he even in Atlanta? I don't know. We can go on with those. Like the only one that came back like on time, it seemed like, was a break, was a broken arm, was Divine Diablo. 4 to 6 weeks. He was back in 4. That happens. Drake London, you played with a 52-man roster because you didn't IR Drake London. He's missed 4 games. You could have put him on injured reserve. And if they put him on injured reserve, they could have signed any player in the NFL from another team's practice squad, anyone, and put him on the team in Drake's position. They could have done that. You don't think they could have found a linebacker that is better than J.D. Bertrand somewhere on someone's practice squad? A wide receiver? We know they've tried everybody out there. They couldn't have found a single player in the NFL on someone's practice squad that was better than what they had. That's what they ended up doing. Michael says, Morris for me is on the worst list as far as disappointing. Let me hear some of yours also. As far as most disappointing. And Michael, and this is going to be harsh. This is going to be harsh. I didn't have the expectations for Raheem Morris. What were your expectations? I'm not hugely disappointed with Raheem Morris because I didn't expect much from him. And one of those reasons, I don't know what the hell he does. He's not calling offense, defense, or special teams. So I can't say that, I'm really disappointed in the play calling. Well, he's not calling any of the plays. His clock management has always been bad. We know that. His use of timeouts, bad. His use of challenges are bad. His decisions to go for 2, and those have been bad. So my expectations for Morris were pretty low to begin with. I can't say I'm all that disappointed. I'm disappointed for him, but I can't say I'm all that disappointed because of him, because I have low expectations for Raheem Morris on that one. David said, Scott, you're better than Bertrand. No. But I had about as many catches as Casey Washington. Casey Washington coming into this season. I don't know if y'all read my takeaways from the game. I wrote 750 words on them before the first snap on the roster mismanagement and the preseason. And how does a guy go from being a starter to being off the team in a matter of just a couple of weeks without an injury? Casey Washington had 1 catch as a professional, and you're putting him in bubble wrap in the preseason. Man, you cannot change my mind that is a bad way to do things. You can't do it. J.D. Bertrand needs all the work he can get in the preseason. You will never, ever. And I tell people all the time, I will recognize your argument. I disagree. And there's no point in us arguing because you're not going to change my mind on that. You're not gonna. So don't try. Don't try. You will never convince me that signing Kirk Cousins was the right thing to do. I was against it the day after the draft. You will never. So don't try. Just don't. I'm not going to argue with you about something that you've dug in. It's a waste of my time. How they handled the preseason is poor. Bowman, as far as here, Bowman, I think would have made this list, but I didn't put him on the most surprising just because of injuries. He hasn't been out there enough. But let's move on. And Michael says, I just expected to go to the playoffs. And if you can put that on Raheem, that's fine. As far as like, well, if they all if the season itself is a failure and I had higher expectations for the team, then that goes to Raheem Morris. And I get that for sure. But I think he's been a liability for this team. Raheem Morris for the most part. When I did the one other team's pod I did was before the Buffalo Bills game, and the Falcons were 2-2 going into that game. I was like, listen, if the Falcons play well, they can win this game. We just don't know if they will or not. And as I went off, I listened to them. I was like, nobody, your skill players don't really scare anybody. The Falcons, they've got some good ones. And they agreed, and they said, then they said the one thing we didn't talk about is I think our coaching staff is better than the Falcons. I was like, yeah, I can go with that one too. And hell, they're about to change. They might change things too. Who knows? So let's move on to surprising on the good side of things. Now, honorable mention. I didn't put him on this list, but I'm going to put him on honorable mention anyway. Was Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison was having a really good season, and going back to the medical staff aspect of things and player and roster management, it kind of pisses me off that a guy who missed 2 games comes back and plays a career high snaps. And I believe that was against the Colts. When he played against the Colts, the Falcons gave up 323 yards rushing, and Zach played a career high snaps after missing 2 games with an injury. He hadn't played since. He hasn't played since. Missed 2 games, play a career high snaps. You talk about easing guys back into the rotation, working them back, get them into game speed. No, we're going to play a career high snaps. He hadn't taken a snap since. That pisses me off. That does. That if I'm in charge of this team, someone's in my office and they're answering for that. They're explaining why. Why did he play a career high snaps? Well, we waived Taquan Graham and we left LaCale London inactive, and then Sam Roberts got hurt. Oh, so you mismanaged your roster and forced him into playing a career high, and then he got hurt and missed the rest of the season. You're fired. That would be on that one. So let's see here, talking about all the Hilliard talk. I think the rumor, Ike Hilliard, Ray's been the most vocal on social media about getting the short end of the stick from the Falcons with Ike Hilliard and the way things were going. And Trenton's saying that, Washington may have been a victim of that too. He may have been a victim of that too, but disappointing. Surprising. I think Zach Harrison was playing great this year, really playing like at a Pro Bowl level great. But surprising players, number 5. How about Kyle Pitts? I cut him in my mind 4 weeks ago. I was so disappointed that, Drake's out and he disappears. Well, Drake's out now, and how much of that, you wonder, is on Kyle Pitts at times? They threw the ball to him, I think, 12 times, and he had 11 catches, or it was 11 times, had 10 catches. Spam him. You have nobody else beyond the backfield to throw the ball to Bijan. You have no one else. Spam Kyle Pitts. He is tied for second, 797 yards, tied for second in the NFL amongst tight ends. I think Trey McBride has run off and hid. He's got like 1,120 yards and 10 touchdowns. But it's him and I think George Kittle at 797 are tied for second. Kyle Pitts has been a pleasant surprise. And if he is a top 5 tight end, then you tag him. And, the question becomes, do you want to give him a longer 2 years, maybe? I don't know. I'm softening on this, but I would still tag him, and then I'd shop him and see what if someone wants to give me a first round pick for Kyle Pitts, I'm selling. But I would tag him. It's about $15.8 million. You can afford that. A top 10 tight end makes 12. So a $3 million premium to have him on your roster for 1 season guaranteed. As Greg says, tag his ass. That's where I'm on that. And Kenny says, run from Pitts. The thing is, though, Kenny, is you've got an asset now, and if you tag him, you can trade him. So that's why I said I'm tagging and I'm shopping. I'm listening. So if I can get a second and maybe a fifth, I'm still probably doing that. If I can get 2 picks for Kyle Pitts on a tag, but I'm not just letting him walk at this point. A month ago, I was just let him go. Just let him walk. I don't want to tag him. I don't want the risk of $15 million. I'd take the $15 million risk again, and I would tag him, and I would shop him. And if I have him again for one more season, then by God, spam his ass. He should be your number 2 target. When it comes to targets, he should be number 2 behind Drake London. And a number 2 target at tight end can be a 1,000-yard receiver for sure. So that's where I am on him. Number 4, most surprising player. How about Divine Diablo at linebacker? We saw the difference he made. Nate Landman is having a really good season for the Rams. It's different. Nate Landman was not very good for Atlanta. Not all his fault again either. But he was here for 2-3 years, and he was okay, serviceable at best. Divine's been a difference maker. When he's out there, he's not just making tackles, he's making plays. We knew it would be an upgrade based on what we saw last year. If Landman was back, he would have been an upgrade over Landman, and just because of Ulbrich versus Lake. But I'm surprised at how big a difference Divine Diablo has made when he's been out there. So I put him at number 4. Number 3, I put Xavier Watson at number 3 as most surprising player. We weren't sure that he was going to start. It was pretty obvious as soon as we got to camp that he was going to start. But when he was drafted, it's like, is this guy going to be a starter? Are they going to put the veteran Jordan Fuller in there? Jordan Fuller's had trouble staying on the roster. Honestly, he's been bounced in and around, and he wasn't signed for a ton of money. He was a $50,000 guaranteed, $1.2 million, basically the same contract the Rams gave Landman. So he was low risk. But Xavier Watts has been good. He hasn't just been forced into a starting role. He's been good this year. At number 3, my most surprising player has been Xavier Watts, and it's nice when these guys are young. All right, I want to hear some guesses for number 2, and I gave this one away because I did use all players. I expected Ulbrich to do a better job with the defense. Now, I didn't expect 50-something sacks in week 15. That's been a huge surprise. I guess I could put that in there. The pass rush unit has been probably the biggest surprise. But let's see what I want to hear what some of y'all have to say for 2 and 1. And yes, they are both players on some of your biggest surprises. And while y'all are typing that in, I want to go through a couple of these. Michael says, David Sills for one of his biggest surprises. I thought of that, and then I remembered, it's gotten a little bit better, but David Sills still only has 143 yards of total yards. I mean, he's still been a bit player, but he's playing wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 snaps, so I considered him. Derek Hart says D. Alford. D. Alford's been solid. Again, he's undersized, but he's aggressive. So you kind of need to play him in a role that is opposite of his stature. You think, okay, small guy, let's have him in coverage. No. I need D. Alford attacking. He's a Chihuahua out there. My daughter has 2 Chihuahuas. I say they're part Chihuahua, part Piranha. And I had a big shepherd. I lost my shepherd earlier this year. But I feel safer with her outside with those 2 attack dogs than I did with my big shepherd. Those guys, those 2 are killers. And that's where D needs to be in attack. He needs to be in attack mode, not in coverage mode. So D's had a good season. OMG says Diablo was his biggest surprise. And again, I put him on the list. I do like that one. And Kevin says Ryan Newsel was a surprise. We haven't really missed Dahlman. And Kevin, I didn't put him on there because he started exactly. He played almost, to the decimal point, 50% of the snaps last year because Dahlman got hurt and missed. There's how many, 8.5 is a game. So he got hurt and missed 8.5 games. So Dahlman missed 8.5 games. Newsel started 8 games and then played half the game that Dahlman got hurt in. So he played 8.5 games, and you didn't really miss him last year either. So that wasn't a big surprise for me on that one. All right, let's see here. Greg has my number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Greg. Greg Bennett. Pierce is a major surprise. He's a dog. That might piss off the Tennessee fans, but we know what you mean here in this context. Is a first-round edge who has 8 sacks a surprise? Yes, it is. I think Verse won it last year with 4 sacks. Won Defensive Player of the Year last year with 4 sacks. Anybody that's had rookie numbers like that in the last 10 years has been a top 3 pick. Pierce went number 26 overall, as we know. It'll cost the Falcons a top 15 pick to get him. So be it. He's worth it. He's been worth it. Coming in, and the thing is he started slow. He's got, I think, 7 sacks in the last 6 games, and it's 6 straight. So it's not, it's like, okay, I look at Kyle Pitts' numbers and I see, okay, he's got 4 touchdowns. Yeah, but 3 of them were all in one game. The other 16 games, he's only got 1. Hopefully he finishes with a couple more. But what's the average over here? And he started slow, but Pierce has been getting to the quarterback every single game for the last 2 months, and he's been making plays. And I think he's been really, really good, and he's been really, really good faster than I expected. And the impact that he's having is I put him number 2, like he's a huge surprise. This is what we were hoping for. But how often do hopes come true for Atlanta Falcons fans, y'all? This is what we hope. Yeah, well, we got it this year out of James Pierce Jr. And the last one, number 1, Kevin got it right here. Brandon Dorlus. Did you get the last one too? He said Ryan Newsel. So no, I disagreed on that one with Ryan Newsel. Number 1, if Rook has been a little bit of a disappointment, Brandon Dorlus, and if Zach Harrison had been playing a full season, Brandon Dorlus has quietly had a phenomenal season in a position where is rotated the heaviest, which is interior defensive line. You go down and just look at the numbers. Your eye test tells you he's affecting games. You know that. But Pierce just passed him for the lead in sacks. A defensive tackle getting 7 sacks is a $20 million defensive tackle. He was a 5th-round pick. I think he was 5th round because Trice was 3rd. He may have been 4th. May have been 4th-round pick. Well, hell, just click on his link, dumbass. He was 4th-round pick. Yes, I'm calling me that. If I'm ever mean to you, you should hear how I talk to myself, for God's sakes. Tackles for losses. He's tied with Caden Ellis for 10, despite playing about 40% of the snaps because Caden Ellis is on the field the entire time. Quarterback hits. He's 3rd on the team with James Pierce is at 13, Caden Ellis is at 10, and Brandon Dorlus is at 9. All he does is make plays. So Brandon Dorlus, for me, is playing like a $20 million defensive tackle, and he was a 4th-round pick, and he's in his 2nd year. He has been awesome. For me, he has been my number 1 biggest surprise on this team. It's Brandon Dorlus. My number 1 overall is probably the pass rush and how well it's improved. That's my number 1 biggest surprise. But from an individual standpoint, who has contributed to that is a bigger surprise than anybody to me, it's Brandon Dorlus on this. So let's see here. I saw this one. I considered putting this one in here. Atlanta Falcons Fandemic comes in. He says, Arnold Ebiketie is surprising not having the season I'd hoped he have. And there's only so many opportunities to go around. And I considered putting Ebiketie on the disappointing list. I really did. But again, it's questionable. I questioned it and I talked myself out of it because I went with a couple other players instead. But Arnold Ebiketie has been okay. He's been a good backup edge. But at the beginning of the season, when people would say, "Oh yeah," and Braylon Trice, don't forget about him. I was like, listen, where the hell is Braylon Trice gonna play? Well, that's Ebiketie. It's 4th. Ebiketie is 4th on this list right now, behind Jalen Walker, behind James Pierce Jr., behind Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd's been a pleasant surprise too. I think he's been really good this season. Ebiketie is 4th. He's playing okay for a 4th edge. Would it have been more surprising to me that James Pierce Jr. is having the season that he's having if you said someone's got 8 sacks? We're in week after 13 games, 14 games now. One of the Atlanta Falcons is leading the teams with 8 sacks. Who would you said it was going to be? We would have gotten a lot of votes for this guy, for Arnold Ebiketie, having a breakout season. Last year of his contract too, y'all. He's going to be a free agent. we would have gotten a lot of votes for Arnold Ebiketie. And he's going to walk. He'll be gone. And the hope is Braylon Trice can finally get healthy and fill that number 4 edge rusher role. That's the hope. He's cheap. You don't have to pay Ebiketie. You don't want to pay Ebiketie. That's what you use your draft picks for, depth, until they eventually replace starters. That's the hope. And then you use free agent. You keep your stars with big money contracts. But as far as team building goes, I want Dahlman is going to get a big free agent contract. I replace him internally, and I don't miss a beat. That's how you stay a good team. But Arnold Ebiketie is on the list, and Sam says I would have thought Leonard Floyd. It would have been the first one. It's the first time in a while he hasn't had 8 sacks, and it's weird. He doesn't have that many sacks. What's he have? 4? Excuse me. It feels like he's affecting the game more than that when he's in there, though. And maybe it's because he's tied for 3rd on the team with QB hits. He's getting pressures. He's getting there, and he's making a difference. No, not 4. That was that was actually LaCale London. LaCale London's got 4 sacks in with 2 starts in 10 games. Hello, LaCale. You know who's done an amazing job of finding defensive tackles to plug and play? Terry Fontenot. He's done it. He's done a really good job of that. Kentavious Street does a decent job. Abdul Anderson did a really good job for the Falcons in 22. LaCale London's done a really good job there. He's done a good job finding reserve defensive tackles on $1 million. And Michael, I almost put Jesse on my most disappointing list. Also, he's been okay. Jesse Bates has been about average, and he's got a huge, if he's not the highest, it's the 2nd highest cap hit at safety next year in the NFL. I think he's trade bait, honestly, is where that's probably an article in a podcast we could do, is the number 1 trade target in the offseason might be Jesse Bates. Falcons might have to eat some money on that, because no one's going to pay him $25 million. No one's going to pick up all that money. I promise you that. But if someone came to me in the offseason and said, I'll give you a 3rd round pick and $10 million, would you take a 3rd round pick and $10 million, knowing that a 3rd round pick was Xavier Watts and $10 million is Divine Diablo? So basically, if I said it that way, would you trade Jesse Bates in 2026 for a Xavier Watts player and Divine Diablo? You'd say, yeah, it's probably worth it. So I would do that well. And Trenton, he's flipped over to the other side again. We're going 2 separate streams today on mobile. We've got that option. So giving you a mobile stream and a landscape desktop stream. Just let me know if you have trouble. Man, I don't like this. Just let me know in the comments, and I'll put the directions back in there. But there's 2 streams going, so we didn't take anything away. We added to it. Kentavious Street has done a good job for sure. And Michael, as far as most valuable players, I feel Caden Ellis has been very good too. That's not surprising to me. So that's why I put so if I have MVP on defense, Caden Ellis is number 1 for me. The number 1. Who is the MVP of this team? I think. Who's your offensive MVP? Who's your defensive MVP? We're damn near going to be unanimous on both sides. You can just start typing them in. But your offensive MVP for the Atlanta Falcons, it's going to be 90% one guy. It'll be split a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball, but I think a runaway winner is going to be Caden Ellis on this side of the ball. So, some people say Diablo. On the offensive side of the ball, it's definitely Bijan, but Caden Ellis for me is your defensive MVP. So that's why, and I expect him to be. That's not surprising to me. He's freaking good. If I put in a list of most underappreciated Falcons because they're on a 5-9 team, Caden Ellis is on there. Just picture him playing for a playoff contending team right now that's getting all the hype that they're hyping up for the playoffs, and the plays that he makes and the importance he is to this team. Caden Ellis would be, and honestly, y'all, that might be one of the reasons he does not re-sign. He's going to have the opportunity to get plenty of money. He's been a bargain. Great signing from Terry Fontenot. $7 million a year. I think he's, $22 million contract on 3 years. He's going to double his money. He's going to go from 7 to 14 at least in this offseason. One more big deal, and he's going to be able to sign with a team that's an AFC, NFC championship type team. So I will not be totally surprised if Caden Ellis is not an Atlanta Falcon next year. I would be signing him. I wrote an article about it in September. The number one guy they should be trying to re-sign right now is Caden Ellis. As far as free agents go, the number one extension target is obviously Drake London, and I think that'll come. I think that will come. Yeah, picture with all the hype that Detroit or the Packers get, or even the Bears. One of those big middle of the country teams. Think of how much what they would be saying about him. He'd be a household name. And Bijan is obviously on that one. And Michael says, Scott, why do you think Blank and Terry were at the Tampa game? I don't know. Is that different? They should be at every game. Blank's almost at every game anyway, even away games as well, especially the night games. National TV, too. Wasn't that one at night? God, I've already forgot. Yeah, Thursday night game. Mini bye week. It doesn't surprise me. They're at most of those. That's not a surprise to me. But they're in full evaluation mode. Blank is in full evaluation mode, including Terry Fontenot. Let's see here. We got we're at 50 minutes, but Curtis is breaking the ice. He is a member. Join Curtis. Be a member. We need you. We need you in the fold, in the nest here. And Curtis says we might keep players if organizations show commitment or willing to change, and that's going to be a big part of it. You're talking about the free agents. Does Caden want to come back? I mean, reading his body language, he loves being out there. You can tell he loves playing this game. But does he want to stay in Atlanta? I think he's going to have the opportunity to go play for a team that's making the playoffs. Is that going to be Atlanta in the next part of his career? I mean, who on this roster has actually made the playoffs? Jake Matthews? Is that it? I mean, as far as with the Falcons, that might be it. So he might want to move. And I've seen Michael says, I didn't know Blank went to away games. Yeah, I've seen him on the sidelines all the time, away games or just home games. So Blank's usually there, and I don't know what Terry does. I don't keep up with those guys, but it wouldn't surprise me. On that. And a national game, 10 Cam says apparently Bijan had 16,000 jerseys sold since Thursday. That's what playing on national TV can do for you. And thankfully, that was a good game. Isn't it the last one, the Monday night game? Is that this coming? I thought it was this coming week. Do the Falcons not play till next Monday? They have a primetime game. Am I forgetting this already? Are we in week 16? I mean, we're getting close to Christmas here, and I haven't even looked that far ahead. No, it's Cardinals. Okay, good. I thought it was the 28th. Yeah, it was after Christmas was the Monday night game. 20th or 29th. Thank you, Trenton. And Michael's taking care of me, sending out island treats for sure. And speaking of treats real quick, listen, they're not technically a sponsor anymore, but I also want to just say thank you to Lion Coffee because they still keep me caffeinated. And if you're looking for a last minute stocking stuffer, the Royal Kona is a little bit more expensive, but that you might not buy for yourself because you feel guilty doing it. But it's like, oh man, what a present. It's the best coffee I've ever had. It really is. So Lion Coffee, the 10% blend Royal Kona, a 2-pound bag was, I think, $50. It's definitely up there. But if you're brewing at home, that's still a hell of a lot cheaper than going out to Starbucks every freaking day. So they've been a great partner of the show, whether they're officially a partner or not. Think of them for Christmas. Think of y'all for Christmas. And thank you, Michael. I'm going to get out of here. It certainly feels like Christmas outside. It's nipping at your nose, that's for sure. I hope y'all had a great weekend, enjoyed some time off, enjoyed just watching some football stress-free, except for you fantasy football players out there. You were probably still stressed going into tonight. I am going to get out of here. Keep it locked in on falconssi.com. We want you to read everything we do. If you see a post from ours on social, whether it's on X, on YouTube, I'll post some to YouTube or on Facebook. Make sure you hit like and share on that. It's a huge help for us. And I'm going to get out of here. We will be back on Wednesday. We will take a look at Arizona, who seems to be spiraling down the drain as well. And can the Falcons win that game and close the season and show potential free agents, maybe potential coaches, that they're serious, that they're not that far away to next year, and keep some of the guys for 2026 and move on. So I'm going to get out of here. Merry Christmas morning to you, Chris. 10 days till Christmas. Can we get a GM and head coach that know what they're doing? That sounds like a Christmas wish to me. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Appreciate y'all being here. And that's all I got for you.